Hello, thank you for joining me for another Visions of Divine Media making a video for the short animation I've been working on, Fish Giver Part 1. And this video is going to be about blocking out my blockheads. My characters sometimes can be blockheads because when I want to tell the story, I don't want to see everything. So I just want to show you this concept, this way that animators do it out there, and the way I've been doing it. And yeah, this is the making of Fish Giver. So here I want to first show you the script. This script is simple as possible too, because I just want to get across the basic points. So it's scene 2, river beachhead. Here I got seems like little paper and pencil is probably the best way to start out. Got the main character here with the fish, and he's laid out, and you're like, what's going on? If you saw scene 1, you're like, the audience is asking what's going on, and then it's in a overhead camera view, so that's shot 1. So now I'm thinking, what's the camera framing, and where's the character in the frame, and what's this fish doing? Nothing. He's just laying there. And then at some point here, we're going to introduce a second character. So as I kind of scrub along, if it's just a simple blocks, I can see these guys interacting now, and it just helps me to simply see the story without getting into moving around too many bones first, see? And then, when he turns around, now the script says I need camera 2. So I will just grab camera 2, and he turns around and he sees the guy, and then he like grabs his arm, and you can see these kind of pencil lines. That's because I use grease pencil to help tell the story too. Like he's here in shot 2, he's surprised, he jumps up and grabs the little boy's arm. And so these arcs, I call them the arc of motion, because I'm telling the story with these arcs. By that frame, in 12 more frames, I need this character to move this way. I need to move him into a C position or something. And by having these cubes, it helps me with the timing and stuff a little bit easier. And I can just set keyframes on just these cubes and see how that goes. And then I'll know, like, oh, it's time to flip to another camera because I'm getting to that point of action. Or there's been enough time for me now. I need to see camera number 3, and then this helps tell the story, because down here in the script I can see that it's a wide shot that I flip to, the WS there, and that's going to help me to tell the audience that what's around these characters. Now there's a little less intrigue. Okay, like there's nothing around them, it's just them two here, and then this fish here rotting, this big scary fish, and then the water that we saw before. So now they have a bit of placement in their mind of what's going on. And then that's how you can kind of work on the position. And once you're happy with that, then you can cut across and you can head over to seeing the, here, I'm going to show you. Yeah, now start with your bones, and start with maybe your pelvic bone. And you can see here I flip here in this window with the non-linear animation editor. So this is where my action clips can be put. And so I can flip out of that again here just to show you that. I can flip into the dope sheet again, and I got my action editor selected here. Dope sheet is good for people to see the timing. So I have just selected my main bones for you to see. I'm going to start blocking out the animation with my main bones. So keep your shapes up here so you can see what's going on still, and position these key bones where those shapes are. That kind of gave you the idea, it gave you the gist of where the action is playing out. It gave you the framing and stuff. And so still use those, you need those primitive shapes to see, but then start working on your key poses. Now I end up with him looking at the second character. And so once I got those poses set up with my rig, I'm happy with like the main bones are set up, then I'm going to add more key poses in between. And these key poses are going to be storytelling poses too. And this is what the supervisor animators or key animators are really going to focus on. Is it telling the story, and what's the timing of this? Not ready to play Blast It Out yet, so I can see the timing easier, but I just want to put those in and trust myself at this point. And then I'm going to add some more in-betweens, or add the first in-betweens, the majorly important ones, like right in between the key poses, maybe if necessary, like I have here, just to be able to help hold the character into position. Maybe I'm trying to hold them back because I don't want them to jump forward too fast right away or something. So they're kind of storytelling as well, these poses. So then once I have them, then I can ask myself I don't want this animation to be too floaty looking when I'm done when I'm ready to see the blocking for the first time in real time using a play blast video. So what I'm trying to say is, like, if I jumped right away to play blast right now with just those and I see that floatiness, it's going to feel like I did everything wrong and man, I got to start again. I got to just trust myself here still. I learned something online that's powerful that I want to share a tip with you on. If you just a sneak peek here too. If you press Control Tab, this is a sneak peek on how I work. If I control tab, I can flip between the two. I can see the keys nice and easily without knowing all the rotations and stuff. If I'm not in the graph editor, if I'm just in the action editor, I can see it clearly. I got it nice and clear and easy to see by using like the Blender keyframe type breakdown or extreme or maybe a hold. And then I flip to the graph editor. Now, I don't want to spend too much time in here just on blocking or telling you about it yet. I'll be another video on this, I'm sure. But there's a pelvic bone, and I just want to follow this Kelly Perez's advice that I found online. She's an animator out there in the industry, and she had this great advice of making sure that your pelvic bone is not too crazy in your graph editor. Like if this pelvic bone is doing some crazy stuff, it's going to throw my mind for a bend when it gets to that point. Instead of focusing on the story, it's going to just trip me up and make me like jarred in my mind. And I don't want my mind to be like spooked by what's going on. So I want to just focus on the story. So I'll just go in and make some of those quick corrections just for that 100 frames, just focusing on what's really messed up in it, as she recommends. That was great advice. Thank you so much for that advice. Flip back into my action editor and focus in on those in-betweens, trying to get that right. Then you're going to have every bone selected. You're probably going to be in stepped mode at this point still, and using your reference footage if you have some and stuff, the reference video to get those in-betweens right and those key poses right, and using your blocks, your spheres probably to make sure that it was right, and then going into spleen mode for everything, and then play blasting it out to see how floaty is the timing right. You probably, if it's too floaty and your mind can't piece it together and you're just lost, watch it again a couple times, but you probably might want to just slip all these bones back into step mode by making sure they're all selected, going down here and going back to step mode for them. So that way then when you play blast, you're not going to see that in between floatiness that the computer calculated. You're going to just see your frames, and that might help you visualize too. I know it was hard for me to transition into step mode, but I did that kind of recently because of what I was learning online and realizing that most people don't always leave it in spleen mode, and I can see why now. Like my mind is confused when I'm trying to set up those in-betweens. It's kind of confused, so I should probably just focus on my poses, my in-betweens, and not what the computer is doing in between. Psalm 16:11 says, "You have shown me the paths that lead to life. Your presence fills me with joy and brings me pleasure forever." I know everybody out there wants some pleasure. I think God wants us to have pleasure too. But don't be a puppet on the devil's string. The devil doesn't want you to have pleasure. The real pleasure, the fruitful pleasure, the best kind of pleasure there is, comes from God. It says in the Word of God, He brings me pleasure forever. I pray, show me the paths of your command. If I'm going to be blocked out like an animation, I want my blocking to be on His path. And if you're thinking about it too, maybe you want your animation to not be a mess. You want the animation of your life to not be a mess. You want His presence forever. You want His presence for eternity. Then maybe it's time to offer yourself to God and say, I want you to lead me down the path that leads to life. I want your presence. I want your pleasure, God. And maybe you can be somebody that's moved and somebody that's animated by Him. Maybe your path can be the path that He wants you to have. In blocking, it's important to add your effects to like simple things moving in your shot, like your tree or a cup in a hand or something like that, or a bouncing ball that's in the action of the scene, because of course the character is going to probably grab that ball, and that if that thing's going to affect your character's movement, then you definitely want to add it in your blocking. Like the storytelling has to come first, and if that effect helps your storytelling, then you're going to want to plan that out too. You're going to want to think about that. So it should even be in your layout, even in your pencil drawing when you're first planning it out and visualizing it. Of course, don't forget about the effects. I've done it before, and I ended up having to reanimate stuff because, of course, you need to have that. And then going into what I mentioned before about like the timing of how things should get things, like what time frame do I expect? I would put myself under a huge amount of pressure to completely finish animating an entire scene in a week. Maybe they can do that in TV with numerous animators, but if you're just trying to do it alone, or like, let's say, what can I reasonably get done by myself? Can I get 600 frames done like they probably do around that in TV? Like, can I get that done in a week? What can I get done in a night? Like, if you pressure yourself too much about all this stuff, then you're not thinking about your story. It took me a number of weeks to do this one shot that I'm going to show you, because there's a couple characters in there, but I probably could have gone faster if I had a reference video for the Laffy character, the second character there, because he did some complicated motions. I should have had some reference for that. That was my mistake here, and everybody's going to make some mistakes like along the way. Really, other people are watching the same. I use reference video for everything. It's basic. I like to get imaginative and not have reference video sometimes, because I like to come up with stuff that in my imagination as I'm animating, rather than just see it in the video and try to copy the video. I think it's going to add flair and life to some of my shots at the expense of the time that it takes me to do the animation, and maybe screwing up on poses and then having to redo them. I could probably animate out of my imagination in the future and still have the reference video to compare it to, the rotoscoping they call it. Just kind of visualize both. So basically, yeah, I think if I could aim for a second or two of blocking done in a night, if I work for a couple of hours, then I did pretty good. But it depends how much is going on in my shot, how much movement there is, how difficult the key poses are and stuff, how many key poses there are. It really depends on a lot of things, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can comment on and give your advice on some of that stuff down below. Maybe you're an expert out there and you're watching this, please reach out to me and give me some help that way. Advice is great, and that's how I'm learning a lot online, is with these experts online. So, and if you're not an expert and you're just watching this because you're interested in how we make these animations, then please subscribe, watch another video, or if you didn't like it, then watch another video and maybe you'll like that video. So he's jumping in here. Oh, running, jumping. Oh, some fish guts. Yum. Oh. Woo. I hope the audio is good for this. Okay. He's still tired. Okay. You know what? You don't have any? Oh, man, I'm going to get you some. And, oh, take that. Oh, yum, yum, yum. Yum, yum, like the Cookie Monster. I'm going to have some more. And this guy should be talking right now.